Hello, everyone. I'm Rob Goodwin of YourBostonSports.com. We have a special show today. Joining me in the Central Connecticut studios is John Korn. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon.
And we have a guest today. He is a Yankee fan, a good friend of the show, though, in his first appearance. Mike Baker from the northwest corner of Connecticut. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the show. I think this is the first time we've had a guest on officially, so we're glad to have you on the show.
Glad to be here.
So, the Red Sox and Yankees are in quite a race right now. We'll call this the All-Star break edition of the show because the All-Star break happens tomorrow night after the ESPN game. And one question that I was thinking about both teams, and of course, what each team does impacts the other. And I'll start with you, Mike. What are your thoughts about what the Yankees may do at the deadline? What their needs are right now? Like, would it be pitching or?
Well, definitely. I think last night was an indicator of the fact that they don't quite have the depth in the pitching rotation. So I would definitely like to see them address that. Domingo Germán is kind of like the current version of Michael Pineda. He has flashes of brilliance, flashes of great stuff, and then almost at the same time he shows an inability to command and control. So you could see where you get into trouble throwing 90-plus pitches after only 4 innings. So as good as their bullpen is, you can't have starting pitching that doesn't make it through the 5th inning.
Right.
So
And
I would definitely like to see them address that.
Are we thinking about Sonny Gray too?
Sonny Gray, he's more, I think, I hate to say head case, but the Yankees know that he has stuff. I mean, the word is he has stuff, and he's able to get it up there at 94, 95, 96 miles an hour. But another case of not being able to close the deal, throwing a lot of pitches. It seems like he gets the first 2 outs of an inning and then can't finish things up. Obviously, we saw that against the Red Sox last week, where in that first inning he gets the first 2 guys out and then an infield hit, and then the roof kind of caves in on him. So I think it's more of a confidence issue, a psychological thing with him.
Sure. And the Yankees in their rotation have had a couple of season-ending injuries, right?
Right, yeah. Jordan Montgomery, promising left-hander, got hurt. He had Tommy John surgery, so he's obviously gone for this year, probably gone for most of next year, if not all of next year. And another promising kid went down with shoulder inflammation. Loisiaga, young right-hander, who showed some promise.
Sure.
They put him on the DL with shoulder inflammation.
Well, the power the Yankees have in that lineup is really unbelievable, and I think they've hit more home runs at this time in a season than anyone. What do you think, Juan? I mean, Aaron Judge, Sanchez, all those guys are. I mean, you have to tip.
Runs, yeah.
You have to tip your hat to the production that they have.
How do you Mookie Betts and Martinez?
Yeah,
just those 2 guys with the Red Sox they completely changed the whole lineup.
Right,
completely.
And so on the Red Sox side, Corn, the Sox have pitching injuries as well, but they have LeDrew Pomeranz and Stephen Wright are going to come back this year. Unlike the issue that the Yankees have with their young staff. So what do you see the Red Sox doing at the deadline, if anything, Corn?
I don't know. I'm hoping. Well, they have Pomeranz and Wright. If they come back strong, they'll have a good rotation.
Yep.
And then don't forget Vasquez is out. He had a broken finger.
That's true.
And who else? Well, they lost Carson Smith for the year.
Right.
And if Thornburg, he's a question mark. Mm-hmm. I guess you could always use bullpen help. No matter who you are, I guess you could use bullpen because a bullpen pitcher is the most unpredictable position in sports. Now, there is absolutely nothing more unpredictable than a bullpen. The guy could be lights out one day, and look at Joe Kelly last night.
Yeah.
He was awful.
Yep.
Lights out, day in and day out.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, you can't. So I guess you can always use bullpen help.
Speaking of Joe Kelly, so Mike, what are your thoughts on Joe Kelly? Do you hate him? Joe Kelly Fight Club and all. Do you hate him or?
No. Actually, I kind of like that stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's nice. It shows that there's some spice back in the rivalry, after some down years. It's kind of nice to see some emotion back in it. It brings back memories of the old Bill Lee, Lou Piniella, Greg Nettles type stuff. And they were even fighting back in the
I think we lost video with Mike.
Rivalry.
We lost you for a second there, Mike. You're back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. We lost. You froze there for a minute.
Okay.
The joys of the internet in 2018.
Yep.
So yeah, it is good to see the rivalry the way it is. I mean, you're not going to have the emotions that you have, but on the field, there's definitely times where things get a little bit heated, which is good, which is healthy for the game.
Yeah, definitely. And there was once a time when it was actually a personal dislike. I remember, Thurman Munson was my favorite player as a kid growing up, and back then there was the rivalry between he and Carlton Fisk, and it was more than a rivalry on the field and with the fan base. It was a personal dislike between the players. So
Eckersley talks about that. He's announcing the Red Sox game. He goes, I'm sitting up there in a booth, and this is about 10 years ago or so. There's 12 years ago. There's Nomar. He hits a double. There he is, talking and laughing with Jeter. Drives me nuts. He goes.
Yeah.
We never acted like that.
Nope, absolutely not. There you don't. And I think that goes. There's such a player turnover these days, and it's more they socialize and fraternize and stuff. But back in the day, no way. You didn't see any of that. Yep.
True, very true. And so speaking of the game and back in the day, Dan Shaughnessy wrote a column in the Globe the other day, which is just all over everything. And he talks about the game, the state of the game being in decline and dull and boring. I really, I kind of don't get it.
I think Dan Shaughnessy's in decline and dull and boring. I am absolutely convinced the dumbest human beings on the planet Earth is the Boston media. I'm not talking about guys like Jerry Remy or Dennis Ecker, the guy calling a game. I'm talking about these bloggers, and that's all these guys are now. They're a bunch of bloggers. Yeah. Journalism's gone. It's gone. It's over. It's over in the regular news and in sports news.
But see, Shaughnessy says to you that attendance is down, ratings are down.
No, it's not.
Well, apparently across the game it is. Now, wait a minute. And also, when you listen to talk radio in Boston, I guess in the morning especially, and I don't listen to it, but that they don't have exclusively sports shows, but a lot of people call in to those shows and to the sports talk shows, and they're all talking, NBA, Celtics, Patriots, NFL, LeBron James, and they don't get any calls about the Red Sox or about baseball. But I don't know if that's indicative of the interest in the game, or is that indicative of the fact that younger people aren't listening to the radio anymore? You have Sirius XM, Corey. That's what you listen to. You're not listening. If you were in Boston, would you be listening to 98.5 all day?
Yeah.
I don't know. And there are a lot of teams that they're losing a lot of games. Yeah, those teams aren't going to draw.
Right.
But I can't agree with him when he says, and I want to know what you guys think because I'm rambling on. But when he says the only people going to games are old people with landlines,
no,
I'm not buying it.
You see that little kid over there, a couple in the next section. He's the little kid standing on the top of his chair with the Red Sox screaming, "Yeah, your chair!" No, I think a lot of young people their attention span is low with anything. That's what's going on. I mean, the remedy for making the game it doesn't work because it actually backfires, like the umpires reviewing a play and stuff like that. But I don't see how you can. In fact, listening to the radio is actually probably. Do you remember we were talking at the game?
Sure.
They don't know what we're talking about when the game is moving slow, because when you're at the game, okay. You're not cognizant of how long things take. You're in the middle of the action,
Right.
And so they're not. It's all action to them. They're not. There's not talking about any of that stuff. So I don't know. I think a lot of people's attention span is just shorter now. In any area, watching a movie, it is.
Yeah. I mean that has a lot to do with it. Definitely, I agree. But now it's been a long time since I've been to Fenway, but just going to Yankee Stadium, it's sensory overload. There are so many distracting things, and like you say, the attention span. There's really little incentive to sit in your seat the entire 9 innings. Used to be you went to the ballpark, and that's what they called it, a ballpark. You went, you got your hot dog and your beer, you watched batting practice, and you watched the game, and then you got up and left. Now there's just so many different things to do at the ballpark. Games on TV, you're cognizant of how long it takes because you're not actually there being blown away by all the noise and the exploding scoreboards and the ribbon, the lighting advertisement you're not overloaded with all that. So you don't, it's a different game, a different day and age. I certainly don't agree that it's boring and this and that. It's still underneath all of the extracurricular stuff that's going on these days. It's still that beautiful game that we all grew up loving. The geometry of the baseball diamond has never changed. The numbers, the basic numbers that we grew up on and lived with, that hasn't changed. So the game is evolved with all the technology and all the distractions. It's not the same. So, and also the Boston radio guys, are they stirring up the fan base like they do in New York? I mean, in New York, it's very, you could sense that the radio talk show hosts are actually stirring the pot, trying to generate those calls. So it's tough to say that the Red Sox aren't you don't have those baseball calls. It all depends on what the radio hosts are stirring up there as well, what they're trying to draw out of their caller base.
Well, and maybe it's bad that the Red Sox are winning like they are because it's Camp Tranquility. There are no controversies, sure. And the people who go online on these Facebook groups that try to stir up controversy. Cora doesn't make. They're winning.
Yeah, they look for controversies.
They're winning despite Cora. Cora hasn't made a good decision yet. There are a lot of people.
Lousy teams.
There are a lot of. Yeah, that's right. There's the excuse. There's an excuse for them winning. A lot of people like us, and I haven't done this, but are saying, you know what? I'm out. I'm not going to be on these message boards and in these Facebook groups because it's totally ridiculous. It's being totally ridiculous, right. And the comments are if they were 5 games below 500. Go to town. Go for it. If Manny Ramirez is stirring up the clubhouse in a negative way, pushing down the traveling secretary, go for it. But that's not happening.
Yeah, there's nothing, and it's funny. Same thing in New York. There's no controversy. There's no clubhouse dramatics. There's no eating chicken wings and drinking beer during games, playing cards and such. There's nothing going on. So, there's very little to critique. There's no second guessing, very little to no second guessing of the manager. You don't have Terry Francona up there being abused and being called Francoma. There's really not a lot going on. Yeah. So it's a double-edged sword. Do you want controversy or do you not? And it's tough.
Do you think there's you got 24-hour news, 24-hour weather, 24-hour sports, and it's 99% of it is BS. I mean, when you were a kid, there was a couple of games on a black and white TV from Springfield. Okay, and you didn't have YouTube. You didn't have and the reporters were journalists. It was journalism. Mm-hmm. Now they're a bunch of bloggers. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's the same thing on the other. It's the same thing. Turn on the Weather Channel and tell me how long it takes to get the forecast. I mean, it's all useless information we're getting, and it's penetrated sports. And when you listen to these guys, you're not hearing what's going on at the game. You're hearing about the personality of the player, or you're hearing about how the only reason they're winning is because they're playing. I couldn't believe it when I heard that one. They're winning because they're playing. So it doesn't count unless you've beaten New York or Houston. Let's see,
know what?
Or Seattle. Let's see. Okay, so they got 15 wins now. I mean, what are they talking about?
Hey, they got swept by Oakland earlier this season. Does that count?
All you can do is play who's on your schedule. The Red Sox didn't make their schedule. The Red Sox don't make the personnel decisions for other teams. I mean, the other teams are getting paid too. That's what I like to remind myself. Watching them, the Yankees split with the Orioles this week. I'm like, the Orioles have won 26 games all year and they've beaten the Yankees 5 times. But I have to remind myself,
that's baseball.
They're professionals and they're getting paid. And yes, in baseball, anyone can beat anyone on a given day. So.
There's no other game like it. There's no such thing as an upset in baseball.
Exactly.
No such thing, and it's the only game that's theoretically infinite.
Right, because there's no clock.
Theoretically, if Mookie Betts was still fouling those balls off, he'd still be at home plate right now.
Right.
It's infinitely. It's theoretically infinite.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the beauty of it.
Yep.
That's the beauty.
Absolutely.
Of it,
All right, so Mike, I got a question for both of you. Mike, you gonna watch the All-Star game?
No.
Why not?
Because it doesn't have, for me, the same meaning that it used to. I used to look forward to it because the American League and the National League never faced each other. And the All-Star game was literally blood and guts. I mean, all you have to do is look at what Pete Rose did to Ray
Ray
Fosse
Fosse.
in '71. They didn't play each other, and you didn't have the type of player turnover that you have these days. So really, in the days before free agency, and even in the days after free agency, before it got to the point where you have it, where very seldom do you have a guy play his entire career in the same league or with the same team. And with the oversaturation, in my opinion, of the interleague play, the All-Star game really doesn't have the same meaning for me that it used to. And I get that it's entertaining, and they have the home run derby and the futures game, and that's all great, and that's great for the younger fans, and it for the propagation of the game and such. It's much more international now too than it ever was. But as far as sitting down and watching, it doesn't have that same meaning for me. I obviously pay attention to it and know what's going on, but used to be you'd sit down and watch the All-Star game, and you'd get to see players that you didn't see, normally.
Right.
So it just doesn't have the same meaning for me.
All right, Corn, you gonna watch the All-Star game?
No.
Why not?
Ditto. The novelty is gone, and it's again oversaturation of information and stuff like that. I don't want to hear it.
Now, Mookie Betts had an idea that instead of the home run derby, they should have more of a skills competition.
Well, like infielders taking.
I assume running, hitting, running. The skills that you need to play baseball. I think of maybe they should just do a game of hit the bat, like when we were kids.
Running bases.
Yeah, you're running bases. Just kill
the guy with the frisbee.
Oh, and by the way, I am old school, Mike. I am the one, and Corn will attest to this, that when I go to a Red Sox game, I prefer to sit down and not get up until the game's over. Right, Corn?
I've noticed that about you.
Corn gets up for coffee. He walks around, just capture the sights and all that, take in the sights.
The stadium,
You know what? I like to be able to get to the ballpark a little early. This is what I used to love to do. My buddies and I, we would go to a game, get there, and watch batting practice. And especially if you had a team that was bringing up a young player. Like back in the 80s, the Yankees had a guy named Dan Pasqua, who was a left-handed slugger. And they had the Yankees had an announcer named Frank Messer, and he coined the term baby bombers back 35 years ago. And they would there was a lot of publicity about this kid. He was a left-handed slugger. And I remember when they called him up, and the buzz was, we got to get to the ballpark early to watch the Yankees take batting practice so we could watch this kid take batting practice. And, that type of stuff is just not – it's not there anymore. I would go to the ballpark, watch BP, walk around, and, take pictures and see the sights. But sit down, get your seat, sit down, watch the ball game, and not leave until – the game is over. And that goes back to my comment about it being a ballpark. You go to the ball, you took the train, you drove 3 hours, whatever it was, to watch a baseball game, and then you left. Now you can go shopping, you go to Hard Rock Cafe, you can spend $400 for a shirt, you spend a couple $1,000s before you've made it to your seat. And it's kind of like, oh, by the way, there's a baseball game today, so in that way, I'm old school. I like to, sit down, watch the game, and not really,
Yeah, the novelty has worn off. Kind of, like I was saying before, with the, you mentioned all the stuff to do you can spend $1,000. Also, all the information that's out there and all that. There was something unique about watching a game. You didn't see things in that. There was listening MLB station. Rico Petrocelli has a show on Saturday mornings called Remember When.
Yep.
And they'll have these old timers on there interviewing Brooks Robinson and Frank Howard.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Frank Howard taking batting practice at Fenway Park.
The Capital Punisher.
Yeah, I remember watching that, and I could not believe what I was looking at. That ball flying over the light tower. Okay.
Yep.
A kid wouldn't be mesmerized by that today because he's seen it a million times on YouTube.
Right.
Okay. Right. He's seen it a million times on between TV and computers. We're given. There's nothing. Remember Reggie Jackson's home. You guys old enough to remember that Reggie Jackson's home run at the All-Star game at Detroit?
Yeah,
it bounced off the
Yeah.
that would not impress a 12-year-old kid today.
No, absolutely.
But I couldn't. I was staring at that television. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. So I think a lot. Those days are gone. You know.
Yeah, definitely. The home run used to be special, and now it's cheapened, and the strikeout is not the a strikeout was a negative. It was a black mark. And back in the day, if you struck out 130 times, that was atrocious. I mean, that was terrible. A guy would lead the league striking out 130, 135 times. Now guys do that by this time of year. So, yeah, definitely. I mean, that home run Jackson hit off of Doc Ellis in the All-Star game, that was impressive. To this day, just the sound of it and the sight of it is still impressive.
And it's the first time you ever saw a guy stand there in the batter's box and watch the ball fly out. That's the first recorded time. Unless I'm wrong, he stood there and watched. Now they stand there. If they have a pop up, they stand there and watch it.
Yeah, and they celebrate.
Sacrifice fly.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I think you're right. I think you're right because Jackson hit quite a few home runs before that, but that's the first time. That's the first time that I can remember
that thing was
seeing
gone.
a guy just flip the bat and. But yeah, that's still impressive.
But it wouldn't blow you away today. If you were a 13-year-old kid today, it wouldn't blow you away.
Yeah.
True.
Nope, not at all. Yep.
Well, and just to go back to one thing that Shaughnessy said, unbelievable. X number of years ago, every game the Yankees Red Sox played was 4.5 hours because every batter took as many pitches as possible, right? And then this year, I know that Alex Cora had talked to Mookie Betts, and I think there was one other Red Sox player and said, you really need to swing more because by having having longer at bats, you're basically taking pitches that are hittable. So that's kind of changed the mindset of Mookie Betts to a degree, and we see the results. My point is that all those people that complained the games were too long, now Dan Shaughnessy said, and the players just go up hacking and they don't care. It's like, well, they're trying to hit the ball. Yeah. Do you think in reality, I understand strikeouts are not really as much of a negative as they used to be, like you said, Mike, but do you really think batters want to strike out? No, they don't.
Absolutely not.
So it's like for the batter to go into the batter's box with the idea that
they're not taking pitches.
I don't want to strike out so much because I want to, please Dan Shaughnessy and the fans, so that way I'm not striking out, 2.1 times a game is ridiculous for them to even think that they're going to have a mindset. They want to go up and hit the ball.
Absolutely.
Don't they? Come on.
I heard something interesting this morning when they were interviewing Frank Howard. Petroselli's interviewing Frank Howard. Ted Williams was his manager. I don't know if you guys remember that. Back in the late 60s, early 70s.
Senators.
The Washington Senators. He called him into his office when he first got there. He goes, "What's the matter with you?" He goes, "What are you talking about? You hit 48 home runs last year, and you walked 44 times. What's going on here? I want you to take the first pitch. And I want you to take the second pitch." He goes, "I can't take the second pitch. I'll be walking the dugout, striking out all the time." He goes, "Take the first pitch then." He goes, "I walked 174 times that year because of that one piece of advice Williams gave me." So this thing with, taking a long time at the plate, that was going on when Williams was playing.
Sure.
Sure. Yep.
Well, and all those walks turned into runs scored.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So we always think we got a new idea going on. It's not. They takes too much time in between pitches and stuff like that. I don't know.
I'll tell you what adds time to the games is all the commercials and the advertisement and the television timeouts and
And the pitcher's taking a long time between pitches. That.
Well, MLB, I understand that they want to get the game to 2 hours 55 minutes this year, and I can't even believe they have a target of any target at all, but of 2 hours 50 minutes. Right, 2 hours 50 minutes next year.
There's too many outside forces influencing the game.
Well,
now they're talking about the shift. We want to do something about the shift. It's none of your business about it. That's between the coaching staff and the players is the shift.
Right.
You can't you can't be trying to engineer what you were saying. The beauty of the game is there is no time limit. What's this 2 hours and 50 minutes crap?
Yeah.
One of the things about baseball, there is no time limit on it.
Right.
Exactly.
20 minutes, 2 hours, 5 hours, whatever it is.
A well-pitched game, you're talking a game in an hour and 55 minutes, 2 hours. A game not so well-pitched, it all depends. The game is so unpredictable, it's a game of inches. It's just so unpredictable. A game could go 2
Yep.
hours. It can go 4.5 or 5 hours. That's just the way it is,
Yep.
And that's what's always made it special to me was its unpredictability.
Yep. It's the ultimate. You never know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
So where we stand now is the Red Sox have, a 3.5 game lead because both teams lost last night.
Mm-hmm.
So the Red Sox, the Yankees play today and tomorrow, right? One game each, no doubleheaders, right, Mike?
Right. Yep. Today in Cleveland, tonight at 7:15, and then tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, so the Red Sox also have 2. So the Red Sox will be, at worst, 1.5 games ahead of the Yankees. And I ask both of you the same question. Is this going to go down to the wire? Mike, what do you think?
I think it is. I'm with John. I think we're sweating this thing out. We're going to be sweating bullets until the last couple of days of the year. I don't think there's any question.
Well, you guys agree on this?
I got a question. Does anybody know the answer to this? Have 2 teams ever won over 100 games in the same division? I think it's going to happen this year.
That's a really good question. I think I don't know if that's ever happened.
The 78 team, Sox won 99 and the Yankees won 100 in 163
Right.
games. That's the only one I know
That's
of.
just close.
But has
Yeah, I don't think.
Great question.
I don't think so. That's a good question.
That could very easily happen. Can you imagine?
Yep.
Imagine the Red Sox winning 103 times and they lose. They got to play a 1-game wild
Well,
card.
If
If you don't want to play a 1-game wild card, win the division then. But
right.
wow.
Yeah.
100
You could
wins
have,
and he's not even in it yet.
Yeah, I mean, you might have 3 teams in the American League win 100 games because Houston is at about a 649 or 650 clip. Last time I checked, that's
Maybe we should tell Dan Shaughnessy that's the reason these other teams are lousy is because Yankees, Red Sox, and Houston are so good. Maybe he doesn't know that. Maybe he hasn't picked up on that yet because he's so intelligent. He hasn't picked up on a minor detail like that.
He won the World Series a couple of years ago, and here they are, 25 games out of first place.
He called the White Sox and Chris Russo was interviewing him the other day on MLB. He called the White Sox and the Orioles bums. The worst player on the Orioles is a professional at a level that you can't even wrap your mind around, Mr. Shaughnessy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, so before we conclude, I got to ask this question. Corn, where does Machado go?
Cleveland?
Does he go to the East?
Cleveland?
Does he stay in the East?
No, he doesn't go to the Yankees. The Yankees don't need him, and the Red Sox don't want him.
All right, Mike, what do you think?
I'm Milwaukee.
Milwaukee?
But they have Travis Shaw, former Red Sox third baseman, right?
Yeah, someone who's in it.
Shortstop.
What about?
Shortstop.
What about?
Oh, that's true. That's right. Yeah, he plays shortstop. You're
What
right.
about someone like St. Louis Cardinals? Someone like that. They could use him.
I think the Red Sox are driving up the price. I think.
I think putting the Yankees and the Red Sox in the conversation is.
I see. Mike froze a little bit. Let's see if he comes back.
I'm sure they've had to send up and down a couple of times.
I think so. We missed what you said about Machado.
Machado?
Yeah.
Any team that he goes to becomes better automatically.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's by default. But the Yankees don't need him. Red Sox don't need him. I mean, Devers is got a bad shoulder, but he'll be back. I don't see him staying in the American League, and for some reason, I keep thinking Milwaukee.
When I think of Machado, the Red Sox, my only question is if they get him, can he play second base? Because if they want to improve in the infield, that's where they need improvement. Because of Pedroia being out and probably not coming back, but Holt's hitting 300, Nunez is Nunez. So I agree with you guys. I don't see him come to the Red Sox.
No. You never know, though.
I know.
Do you think Pedroia is done? I mean, done?
Yeah, I would say it depends what kind of winter he has. Because at this point, he's not coming back this year, and he was ready. Supposedly, they went through all the tests, they went through all the drills. They put him through the paces like they did. They put him through the paces like they did Nunez in the before they signed him in spring training, and he's obviously he lasted three games. So
Yeah,
that's a tough one.
Back on the DL.
Yeah. And he's
So
signed. He's signed for a couple more years.
2020.
Yeah.
Now, did he have microfracture surgery on that knee or cartilage?
I would have
Some
to.
sort of cartilage?
I would have to consult my orthopedist.
Okay.
I think he had a broken rear, right broken rear. Oh no.
He's not juicing anymore.
Yeah.
He's down there. He's rehabbing with Cespedes.
He played with a broken wrist, and he won the MVP with a broken wrist. Remember that 11 years ago? Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
That's right, 2008 MVP.
Well, this has been fun, and Mike, thanks for joining us. Overall, I think we had a great time talking, and I knew that getting you and Corn together would be entertaining. And you guys certainly showed your historical understanding of the game far beyond my knowledge.
Who's your all-time favorite player? Do you have one?
My all-time favorite
Who's
player?
your favorite player?
Well, Mickey Mantle.
Yeah.
Is an all-time favorite player, although he was obviously before my time. I have a lot of respect for Ted Williams. But my favorite player personally, to this day, is Thurman Munson. He was my favorite player for what he did on the field, and as I've gotten older and become a parent, he is one of my favorite human beings for what he was off the field. So to this day, he's still right at the top for me.
Did you ever see Bronx is Burning, that video series that ESPN put up? Wasn't that amazing?
Yes.
How they portrayed him and Jackson. It was so believable. You knew that that was casted so well. Those characters in there. Yep.
And that's amazing that you had a group of guys that were so eclectic and so diverse, yet they were able to put it together when it counted.
Yep.
But I remember those days vividly.
Yep.
The only problem getting you guys together is you won't stop, which is great. Well, we got to do this again sometime. Matter of fact, the next time it might just be you two, because I might just stay off to the side and watch.
You sound too much like Dan Shaughnessy.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. This has been great. I enjoy this. This is great.
Well, thanks, Mike. Have a great weekend. Hey, enjoy. I guess you're not watching the All-Star game, so enjoy the finale on Sunday.
I'm going to enjoy my 3 days off.
Sounds good.
Take care, Mike.
All right, Corn. Thanks for joining us, Corn. Have a great weekend, Mike.
All right.
Take care.
You too. Thank you,
everybody.
guys.
Yep.
Bye.
That was good.